The Zephyrian battlecruiser Dominion's Edge hung in the void above Earth's third moon, its sensor arrays sweeping methodically across the human colony's surface. Commander Vextar's four eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic displays, searching for the legendary weapon that had turned the tide of 12 major battles across 3 star systems. Still no trace of the device. "Commander," reported Lieutenant Quindal, his mandibles clicking nervously. "Our intelligence was certain it would be here." Vextar's tail lashed in frustration. 3 months of pursuit, following whispers and rumors across half the galaxy, all leading to this unremarkable settlement on Luna Tertius. The humans called it New Cambridge, and from orbit, it appeared to be nothing more than a collection of modest domes and connecting tunnels, housing perhaps 10,000 souls. "Deploy the stealth reconnaissance team," Vextar commanded. "If the humans have hidden their ultimate weapon here, we will find it." 4 hours later, the reconnaissance team materialized in the main corridor of New Cambridge's central dome. Their adaptive camouflage rendered them invisible to human eyes as they moved through the settlement, scanning for energy signatures, exotic materials, or any indication of advanced military technology. What they found instead was ordinary. Humans walked peacefully through corridors lined with growing plants. Children played in open spaces while adults tended to hydroponic gardens and manufacturing centers. The technology was advanced but civilian, nothing that screamed ultimate weapon to the trained Zephyrian soldiers. "Commander," whispered Operative Colvin through their encrypted comm channel, "we're detecting an unusual energy concentration in the northern quadrant. Multiple life signs, but the readings are strange." "Define strange," Vextar replied from orbit. "The energy patterns suggest intense neural activity, but it's not combat-focused. It's almost like thinking. Concentrated thinking." The team converged on a large, transparent domed structure filled with natural light. Through their optical enhancers, they could see nearly 60 beings, not just humans, but representatives from a dozen different species. Zephyrians, Altarians, Krelak, even a few members of species the reconnaissance team couldn't immediately identify. At the center of the gathering stood a human female, elderly by their standards, with silver hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of decades of focused expression. She gestured animatedly at a holographic display showing complex mathematical equations and stellar cartography, which is why the conventional approach to faster than light. "Communication fails," she was saying, her voice carrying clearly through the dome's audio systems. "But if we consider quantum entanglement not as a binary state, but as a spectrum of correlation intensities, we can theoretically maintain coherent information transfer across galactic distances." A young Zephyrian in the audience raised a claw. "Professor Chen, wouldn't that require computational processing power beyond anything currently available?" The human smiled. "Excellent question, Valine. Who can suggest a solution?" Colvin's grip tightened on his plasma rifle as he watched members of various species, including 3 more of his own people, engage in animated discussion. This was wrong. This was impossible. Zephyrians didn't sit peacefully with other species, especially not humans. They certainly didn't call them professor and hang on their every word. "Commander," he whispered urgently into his comm, "you need to see this." An hour later, Commander Vextar himself materialized outside the dome, his personal cloaking field keeping him hidden. What he witnessed challenged everything he thought he knew about warfare, about humans, about the very nature of power itself. The elderly human, Professor Chen, they called her, was demonstrating something on her holographic display. It wasn't a weapon schematic or a military strategy. It was a method for converting atmospheric poison into breathable air using crystalline matrices and stellar radiation. Simple, elegant, and revolutionary. "The beautiful thing about this approach," Professor Chen continued, "is that it scales. A single unit could terraform a small moon. 1,000 units could restore a poisoned world. Knowledge, my friends, multiplies when shared, unlike resources which divide." A Krelak student, her chitinous shell gleaming under the dome's lights, raised a question about implementation costs. An Altarian offered insights from his homeworld's atmospheric engineering projects. A human teenager suggested a modification that could reduce power consumption by 30%. And Professor Chen listened to each contribution with the same intense focus. building upon their ideas, weaving them together into something greater than the sum of its parts. Vextar watched for 3 more hours, his initial anger giving way to confusion, then to something he couldn't quite identify. These beings weren't just sharing information, they were creating it together in real time. Each question led to new possibilities. Each answer opened new avenues of exploration. "Sir," Colvin's voice crackled through the comm, "I've identified the energy signature we detected. It's not a weapon. Then what is it?" "It's learning, Commander. Accelerated learning. The neural activity we're reading, it's dozens of minds working in harmony, processing information at rates we've never recorded outside of military combat scenarios." That's when Vexitar understood. The weapon wasn't hidden in New Cambridge. The weapon was New Cambridge. Not the settlement itself, but what it represented. The terrifying human ability to turn enemies into allies, opponents into collaborators, conflicts into opportunities for growth. He thought of the 12 battles where humanity had achieved impossible victories. In each case, they had been outnumbered, outgunned, facing superior forces with centuries more military experience. And in each case, they had won not through better weapons or tactics, but by somehow convincing portions of the enemy fleet to switch sides. At the time, Zephyrian Command had assumed the humans possessed some form of advanced mind control technology. The truth was far more disturbing. Humans had weaponized education itself. Professor Chen's voice drifted through the dome. "Remember, there are no stupid questions, only questions we haven't learned to answer yet. The moment we stop being curious about each other's perspectives is the moment we stop growing." Commander Vextar deactivated his cloaking field and stepped into the dome. 60 pairs of eyes turned toward him, surprised, wary but not afraid. Professor Chen smiled and gestured to an empty seat. "Welcome," she said simply. "We were just discussing stellar cartography. I don't suppose you'd like to share how the Zephyrian Empire maps hyperspace lanes? We've been trying to solve some navigational challenges, and I suspect your people have developed some elegant solutions." For the first time in his military career, Commander Vextar found himself completely outmaneuvered.